overtourism.
Mm.
Okay, this is a interesting area where we need to find a balance.
Yeah.
So let me ask Edison first about how is corporates reacting on sustainability or about carbon neutral travel? What's your view on this particular thing? And then I'll go to Matt on the same topic.
All right. If you're talking about the sustainability, of course, you mentioned about the over-tourism. I think over-tourism is very complicated issues. Of course, it's related to about the the awareness and branding about the destination, the familiarity about the destination. If you want to drive more traffics to the new regions and new cities, it's also having an issue about like aviation connectivities, transportation. It's very complicated. Uh, of course, but if you're talking about the sustainability, I mean, we do have a lot of research. Even last year, we have a joint research report with GSTC. We realized getting more and more people start to care about sustainability. One of the very important reasons is they most of the people they realize that whatever they enjoy or whatever nature and wildlife they enjoy right now, they want to pass it to the next generation, not just for this generation. And people start to care about the carbon consumption, green energies, and we also realized a lot of destinations start to spend efforts to promoting sustainability tourism. But the problem right now is the gap between awareness and willingness to pay. Travelers are aware about sustainability, they know the importance about sustainability, but how much they're willing to pay for the sustainability is a huge gap.
Yeah.
So it's also create a challenge for the destination, for the commercial platform, for the stockholders and the travelers. But I mean, like it's always good. Something we need to start first. Education about the sustainability right now is the first stage, and how we are really able to showcase and visualize about the sustainability. But nowadays, because people look at the sustainability more like a concept, but it's really how many people really understand about the sustainability. This is also a question. That's why we reflect on the willingness of paying on the sustainability. But as the industry stockholders, as a OTA, this is our responsibility for sure. That's why we're also spending our efforts to invest in the country retreat by using solar panel energies, green energies. We're also working with the destination in terms of solving the over-tourism issues because the capacities, even travel experience will be affected if certain destinations are facing the over-tourism issues. We always understand that tourism is one of the very important economic drive engine for whatever countries, especially for those countries like Thailand, Japan, and Korea. Their economy rely on the tourism contribution a lot. But we also need to understand that how to balance the tourism experience and local people experience. The capacity is there. Infrastructure is very limited. The resources are very limited. How to really balance the resources for local people and for tourism is also a very important topic. Getting more tourists attract the traffics to new regions, lower tier cities, new regions. They can create more job opportunities, more travel industry economic impacts for the destination, and also can provide new experience for the travelers. But as I mentioned, there's a very complicated topics because you need to solve the issue like infrastructures, hospitalities, aviation connectivities. Hardware and software. It's a long journey. Of course, it's happy to see most of the destinations have already aware about this challenge and they are working on that. So OTA like us, we are more than happy to working with others partners on over-tourism, also on the sustainability tourism.
So Matt, what's your view on this awareness on sustainability? What are you seeing?
So look, I'm not an expert in sustainability and travel, certainly. So I mean, what I think, I personally, I agree wholeheartedly in regards to it. It's a very complex balance, isn't it? You know, tourism is so important for so many countries, so many destinations economically. You know, it's one of Australia's largest industries. Tourism, I don't know, it is most locations around the world, but many of them as well. And getting that balance right between, you know, how you sustain it for future generations, how you make sure that it's not overpopulated. I mean, there's obviously quite a no, in fact, the Great Barrier Reef, one of our incredible natural wonders of the world, is dying through, you know, various reasons as well. How do you protect that, and how do you balance that tourism and sustainability at the same time as well? I think, you know, education is certainly one way to do it, which is really important. The way that a lot of governments and locations are putting on sort of quotas around the number of travellers there, that could obviously, you know, raise prices sometimes as well. But then again, the education about why that's sort of important, I think, is really important to understand as well. I think there's also a side of sustainability around just travel in itself, and some responsibility for the industry, whether it's as small as hotels having, you know, filtered water rather than water bottles in every single hotel room, whether it's how you have got carbon offset for airline travel as well, whether it's you know, all sorts of different ways that the industry should be thinking about that sustainability in it as well. From a business perspective, you know, sustainability generally for brands is very, very important. You know, generally the world wants it, business decision maker wants it, governments want it as well. They see it as a incredibly important part of the future of our world, and being known as, not just known as, but actually speaking about, but also having action in place to ensure that you are making the world and the environment better through sustainability is incredibly important. So it is, we do see a very large part of the content and part of brands generally around the world.
Zach, do you see anything in the younger generation that care about this particular topic, or is something that, yeah, it's being
So hypocrisy, truthfully, like, you know, what everyone expected millennial travelers to bring was exactly what Edison was getting at, which is dollars towards sustainability. The reality is, when it actually comes down to paying more for less carbon in the air, most people don't. We've seen this time and time again in the data. I think what becomes a little bit more interesting is and actionable is first performative sustainability, right? There's a number of hotel groups who I can think of off the top of my head who, if they do anything sustainable, have to write you a note about it, or have to make it into a marketing scheme, or have to you know, make sure that they're getting the credit for the sustainability, which I actually don't think is a bad thing. I do think a more interesting sustainability conversation is about sustainable tourism when it comes to over-tourism. We don't think about sustainability in terms of sustainability for those businesses and destinations. So something like traveling during shoulder season and off season. The reason why I think that style of sustainability, which makes it for a better business for those people who are serving tourists around the world, it also makes it for a better experience for the travelers. So where I think some of the sustainability efforts around carbon reduction have failed is ultimately doesn't change my flight, right? And so, you know, we all could be idealists when we talk about what we want on social media. When we have to put our money where our mouth is, our generation is sort of disappointed people when it comes to our support of sustainable efforts. These versions of sustainability that are less intuitive but still really impactful to local economies, like over-tourism, I think that is something that does move the needle. I brought up the issue of the Japanese coffee shop with a 45-minute wait. Like, people thought that ruins the experience. You go to a city like Mexico City, where the joke was during the layoffs back in 2021 that the layoffs, you know, everyone who was laid off in Silicon Valley all moved to Mexico City. Like that, you know, that there's a conversation on global gentrification there. You see it in Europe. There's major pushback to over tourism right now. I think there is recognition that too much of a good thing for those businesses, which in this case would be tourists, the good thing here being tourists, could damage the ecosystem for everyone. And then for many tourists, we don't want to be ruining a city. We don't want to be ruining a coffee shop. We certainly don't want to be ruining the Great Barrier Reef. I do think that element of sustainability, which wasn't really first wave when we started to talk about this word, I do think that moves the needle for travelers, for consumers, for people.
I think this goes back our work from anywhere concept,
Yeah.
where maybe we can flatten out the curve, like you're saying, right? The off season, the shoulder season, and what have you, and figure out a way to balance it out.
These cities that have become remote work hubs, though, have changed. Like if you look at Bali, Bali is where every influencer or remote worker ends up at some point or another. Everyone's done a stint in Bali. I haven't before anyone starts to point fingers. The city of Bali has fundamentally changed. And for those who were there 10, 15, 20 years ago, there's a lot of nostalgia for what was. So I don't want to be one of those people who mourns progress. And there's certainly a lot of people who have benefited from these trends online that attract people to places, but the downside is palpable too. And I do think the younger generation is pretty clear-eyed about those downsides.
That's the key word that we'll be talking about for the whole session: balance. Right? Figuring out a way to balance the pros and cons in all these topics.